Be strong.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to once again cover 3D printed Space Marines. I'm going to show you a wide variety of Space Marines that I've printed using both FDM and resin printers. And we'll start with the two Primarchs I have on the display stand, Vulcan and Alpharius. Vulcan here was printed on an Ender 3. And let's see if I can get in close. You can see the print lines there. I get a lot of people tell me that they don't believe I printed these on an FDM printer, or that it's capable to print Space Marines and high detail models on the FDM printer, and it's just not true. You can. You just have to dial in your settings, and depending on the printer you use, there's different things you can do. But anyhow, this particular model, I believe, was made by a 3D artist named Gamic, and is available for purchase on my Mini Factory. I'll post a link to this in the description below, as well as some of the other models we're going to show today. But anyway, Vulcan, Primarch of the Salamanders, 3D printed on an FDM Ender 3 printer. Now we'll show Alpharius here. This was the first model that I printed on my resin printer, the Anycubic Photon Zero. I'm sure many of you who are in the 3D printing community are familiar with the Anycubic Photon, but maybe not the Zero. The Zero is like the little brother or redheaded stepchild, so to speak. I'm not very pleased with the detailed results on it. I think it could have been better. My Sonic Phrozen Mini puts out much better details. But you know what? This is still a good print. It's still higher quality than what you can get on an FDM print. And as you can see here, you can barely see the print lines in this. There's a few right there. And I believe I got this model for free on Cults 3D, but I could be wrong about that. I'll put a link, if I find it there, I'll put a link down there for him as well. So let's swap out these two Primarchs, and I'm going to put two more up there. First up, the Lord Commander himself, Robute Guliman. And then the Iron Lords, or excuse me, Iron Warriors Primarch. I forget. I think it's Pertarbo. I can't remember off the top of my head. Remember his name right now. Both of these models were designed by a 3D artist named Legio Truescale. I'll put a link to his Patreon below. I still think the details came out really well. Some people don't like his design style as far as his body size, but I find nothing wrong with it. Like he says, it's true scale. And I'll give you an example. Here's a normal Space Marine of his. You can see how much bigger the Primarch is. So, still good details for an FDM print. You can see his fingers. You can see print lines, but again, print lines don't faze me in the least. And I think for many in the community, it doesn't bother them. Everybody's so pleased to be able to print their own models and figures and toy soldiers that, you know, the little things like that. And a lot of times paint will cover up some things like that. And depending on your settings, it could highlight them more. Now you can see here where part of his leather gear there broke off. That's part of the fiddliness with 3D printing, in particular when you have to put supports on an FDM printer. Because you will not print models like this without supports unless the designer designed it to be support free, and that's with this detail, that's pretty rare. Alright, now let's move on to some more. These 3D printed Space Marines were made by a designer called Onimioji. I'm probably not saying his name correct. I think his name is Stanislav. I forgot his last name. Anyway, I'll put a link to his Patreon below and maybe to his Facebook group. As you can see, this is kind of a Star Wars themed Space Marine commander. I think he's wicked. You can see what's supposed to be little flames there. Imperial logo, or close enough. You can see the print lines on the cape. And in that same vein, here's one of his Space Marines. Now, here's a hazard of 3D printing. Not paying attention to your print scale. As you can see, the turquoise Space Marine is much larger than this one. This one is more closer to a GW Firstborn Marine, or this one's more closer to a Primarchs. But even so, I think he's still a little bit thicker. Let's put this one up. Again, 3D printed on an Ender 3 FDM printer. This is PLA plastic. This plastic was made here locally by a company called Push Plastic. I'll put a link for them as well. Another Onimioji Space Marine. My first thoughts when I printed these guys was to make them a new chapter called The Dark Knights. Looks like I had a little bit of blur there. I'll have to edit that out. And another Onimioji with a hammer. Now I have printed all of his Space Knights, Space Marines, in 20mm scale, 1/72 scale. I'm a solo wargamer, so I prefer a little bit smaller scale, so I can have more models on the tabletop for big battles. Now for skirmish battles, then I like, of course, these. And I'm starting to experiment with bigger Space Marines, and I'll make a video of a bigger scale, 54mm scale Warhammer 40K later. Alright, let's go with Joshua Vidovic. Now you've seen me preview a model similar to this in my Warhunters Custom Space Marine chapter video. This is from his Halo Marine set, and again I'll put a link to his Patreon below. And I believe these are freely available on Cults 3D. And here is the Halo Marines Commander. And both these were resin prints. I believe I printed these, no, the base was not, but the figure, I believe I printed them on my Anycubic Photon Zero. Oh yeah, let's finish up with Legio Truescale here. Here is one of the Iron Warriors captains. My plan for these is to make my own custom Space Marine chapter called the Stormhammers, and this is the test paint scheme for that. You can see the little hammer there that are free-handed on the model. You can see some print lines here, but again, I think print lines are just fine. I have no problem with the quality of this model. I think he looks cool. Get that focus in there. Chain gun. I like his medieval style 30K looking helmet. You can see the cracks in his armor, or he's taking hits. And a tactical marine. Same as the other one I showed that was painted. Next, let's look at a laser printed salamander. This was printed on the Anycubic Photon Zero. This was the second 3D model I printed from a laser printer on that particular printer. And he was printed in bits. I like his helmet. I believe I got this figure off of Thingiverse, but I could be wrong about that. Next up, another resin print, a Terminator. He has Dark Angel's livery on him. Oh, see, right there. That's a mistake. I never noticed that before. That's a support that should have been clipped off before I cured the model. All 3D models in resin printing require support. With like these, rather, I should say. And I believe this is also another Thingiverse model. Alright, now this model has a combination of resin and FDM prints. And the FDM print are the candles that I've added to the top of his backpack. This one, including the last one I showed you, are going to be a custom chapter of basically Templars. Here's another resin printed model. Has one FDM printed candle on his base. My custom chapter will use a selection of both Dark Angels and Black Templars livery. Cherub. This was printed on the Anycubic Photon Zero, same as the Marine. Alright, this model. This is a combination of GW parts, 3D prints, and the 3D printed parts all resin. So the Black Templar shoulder pad rather is a 3D print, as well as the Cherub on the base. And his legs. His legs are an FDM print. And his torso, the back side, I believe is a GW model. And same thing with the head, the shoulder, the arm, and the backpack. And keeping with that vein, here is a Games Workshop model. Games Workshop backpack. But a 3D printed, FDM printed sword. You can see some little glitches in it. But before painting this, I'll clean that up. Again, I'm more than satisfied with that. I think it looks cool. Next up, a couple of 30K models. FDM PLA prints on an Ender 3. I have a new Ender 3 version 2 that I've not set up yet. If you have an Ender 3 printer, I suggest you go and join the Dragon Lock Facebook group that's sponsored by Fat Dragon Games. Tom Tullis of Fat Dragon Games. His cure profiles are what I've used on my Ender 3s. And his work is amazing, as you can see the results here on all these FDM prints. Alright, another little run through of a custom chapter I'm thinking about doing. These will be the Fallen Hunters of our Dark Angel successor chapter called the Bloodlines. I forgot where I got these. I don't recall if this is a model designed by the designer called That Evil One. I don't think so. As you can see, it has some Age of Sigmar Stormcast hints to it. Now this model was a resin print. This was printed on my Sonic Phrozen Mini. And then the final two, these are both FDM prints that were printed on an Ender 3. You can see the print lines there in his shoulder pad. You see a few little mistakes there. Now I'll show you an Emperor's Champion. You can see the marking on the blade. This is a laser print. I believe this was printed on my Anycubic Photon Zero. Back to Ender 3 print. You can see the sword really jacked up there. I'll have to do some work with putty or green stuff to fix that. The base is rather ugly. Still, I find this to be a satisfying print. For me personally, I mean, it's not going to meet everybody's standards, but I have a standard of good enough. A chaplain, and this print is a, excuse me, this print was a mistake. I didn't scale him right when I printed him. It's another FDM print on an Ender 3, but I think he turned out well. This model will be given away to someone that, a little kid or something that might have some interest in 40K or wargaming. Another FDM Ender 3 print. Oops, sorry. This model took me several tries, and then after I got him printed, I realized I printed him too small. So he'll be given away as well. I love him holding that book. On this one, the print lines are very visible, and I believe that was because I had a problem creeping up on my Ender 3. Those in the printing community don't know what that is. Alright, let's go to some heroes in the back here. This, believe it or not, is an FDM print. Printed on an Ender 3. And if you get Tom Tullis's Cura profiles, you can do that too. Or maybe you have a Prusa Mini like I do. I use the 0.07 Ultra Detail, 50% infill, 3.75 reduction, and then my own particular support settings. I kind of go thin on my support settings to make them easier to remove, and you can get just as good detail. An Inquisitor. Perhaps I should have featured him in a different video. Ender 3 print, PLA. A Templar Marine. One of the cool things about the 3D printing community is all the different alternate styles of 40K models that you can do. A Terminator, and he is ugly. Not very happy with him, but he is good enough. This also was a FDM Ender 3 print. You can see some of the supports still attached there, and where they got under the cape here. You can see part of his axe was lost in support removal. I still think this model kicks ass. Now this is one of the Marines I'm most proud of. This is a combination of 3D printed pieces and a 3D printed base. The base was for another fantasy figure, and he had broke off, and I thought, man, this guy fits perfectly in that. So I attached him to it. This again is for that custom chapter I'm doing that uses both Black Templar and Dark Angel's livery regalia. Yet another purity seal right there. You can see, and it broke off. I mishandled it and dropped it, and it broke. All right, this one is a combination. Again, the same chapter, but it is a combination of two different resin printers. The neon green is from the Anycubic Photon Zero, and then the colored parts are from a Sonic Phrozen Mini, which is just amazing. As you can see, the results just on the Sonic Phrozen Mini are just spectacular. And lastly, one more FDM print. I love it. Statue head. Two different pieces. FDM head. I'm not happy with that. I wish I had put a Space Marine head, and I may still pull that off and put down a helmeted, excuse me, I shouldn't say Space Marine head, a helmeted head instead of the, or a bald one maybe. And just, his mouth doesn't look right to me, and his hair looks goofy as hell in my opinion. But the rest of the model I think is amazing, especially considering that it was done on Ender 3 with PLA. Again, you can get great results like this with the Cura profiles from Tom Tullis at Fat Dragon Games Dragon Lock Facebook group. And I believe I got this model off Thingiverse. I could be wrong about that. I will not be able to provide a link for most of these Thingiverse and Cults 3D models because a lot of them have been removed for obvious reasons. But all the Patreon ones and purchase ones, like the Vulcan, I will put up a link for, so you can see, and maybe if you want to buy one, you can. Alright guys, that wraps up today's video. This is the longest video I've had so far. Comment down below if you 3D print Space Marines or 40K figures with an FDM printer, or same thing with a resin laser printer. Which do you like better? I tend to like the FDM printers better because they're just so much easier as far as mess. I don't have to clean up liquid resin and then cure it and all that other stuff. I just print it, pull off sports, done. I will say this: resin prints take FDM prints take longer than resin prints. So comment down below if you like this video, if you like the Marines in here, if you 3D print Marines, or maybe you use 3D printed parts. Maybe you don't have a printer, but maybe you buy parts from a seller on eBay or Etsy or something. Comment what you think about it. If you can, please just leave me a simple like. I appreciate it. And if you want to see more plastic soldier videos, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.